Hello and welcome to this video on percentages of amounts. When thinking about percentages of an amount, I like to think about a scale and a full bar that I like to think about as my full amount. So if you're thinking about a full amount and you're asked for a percentage of that amount, if you are asked, for example, for 90% or 80% or 70% or 30%, you're going to get a number that is less than the original amount itself. So if you think about this as being the full original amount itself, you're asked for 90% or 20%, you can see how you would get less than your original amount, which you can think of as 100%. So that is what you will get in most situations. Of course, you can be asked for greater than 100%, but mostly you will be asked for percentages of amounts such as 80% or 60%. To do these calculations, you really need to have a good understanding of the place value table and the fact that you jump to the left if you are multiplying by powers of 10. So all digits jump one column to the left if you're multiplying by 10, all digits jump 2 columns to the left if you're multiplying by 100, and 3 columns to the left if you're multiplying by 1000. And similarly, they go to the right 1 column if you're dividing by 10, 2 columns to the right if you're dividing by 100, and 3 columns to the right if you're dividing by 1000. In particular, you really need to know dividing by 10, all digits jump 1 column to the right, and dividing by 1000, all digits jump 2 columns to the right. Really important, those two, especially for finding percentages of amounts. So let's have a look at why that is really important. So example number 1 says work out 10% of 700. Well, let's just go back to that little bar model at the beginning. Imagine 700 is this full amount. If I want to find 10% of it, what do you think I need to do? Well, hopefully you can see that I need to divide by 10. Because I want to get one slice, and I want that one slice to be exactly 10%, or 1/10 of that full amount, which is 700 in the first example. So 700 is my full amount. I want to find 10%. I need to divide by 10. So 700 divided by 10, well, this is where our place value table comes into importance. So if you've got 700 and if you're dividing by 10, you jump 1 column to the right. So 700 ends up there as 70. So 10% of 700 is 70. That 0 that is there is still there, it just goes into the tenths column. So you can write it as 70.0. It still has the place value of just being 70. Example 2, work out 10% of 350. Okay, so put 350 into my place value grid. And if I'm just finding 10% of it, I'm dividing by 10. So all digits jump 1 column to the right, and I get 35. Again, you can think about that 0. I don't want to forget about it, that 0 there has just jumped to here. So I can write it as 35.0 if I want to, but 35 is absolutely fine. Example 3, work out 10% of 75. So let's put 75 in the table. and let's jump each digit one column to the right. Well, the 7's going to go there, and the 5 is going to go there, which means that 10% of 75 is 7.5. Example 4, work out 10% of 9. Well, 9 sits here in the place value grid, and if I'm finding 10%, of course I have to divide by 10. So all digits jump one column to the right. So 9 is going to go here. But it's really important that now it's in the tenths column, I have to remember to put my 0 point there. So my answer as 10% of 9 is 0.9. Example 5, work out 10% of 0.8. Let's put 0.8 in the table. 0.8, that's my decimal points. All digits jump one column to the right if I'm dividing by 10, and that's what I'm going to do to find 10%. So my 8 is going to go there. That 0 is going to go here, and then I need to make sure that I write this correctly as a number 0.08. So 10% of 0.8 is 0.08. Example 6. Work out 20% of 65. Okay, well, 20% is just double 10%. So if I can find out 10%, then I should be halfway there. So I encourage you to lay out your workings like this. So 10% of 65, let's just work out what 10% of 65 is first. So you've got 65 here, and all digits jump one column to the right if you divide by 10, so that's going to become 6.5. And then to get to 20%, well, 10% to 20%, well, to get from 10 to 20, I just have to multiply by 2. So I think that I'm probably just going to have to do that to this as well. Multiply by 2. And if I do that, I get the answer 13, or 13.0. Example 7. Work out 30% of 254. So let's lay out my workings like this again. 10%. Let's find out 10%. Well, first of all, I need to put my digits 254 into the table, like this, 254. Find out 10%, that means all digits jump one column to the right. So I get 25.4. So 10% is 25.4. And to get 30%, I'm just going to multiply that by 3. So therefore I must have to multiply this by 3 as well. So how can we do that? Well, we can use several different methods you can use of multiplications, whichever one you are happy doing. Just for quickness, I'm going to use the column method, and I'm going to ignore that decimal point. So 25.4, I'm just going to pretend that that is 254, so that my decimal points don't get all mixed up. And I'm going to multiply it by 3. I'm going to put the decimal point in at the end. I know that 25 times by 3 is roughly 75, and I'm going to be in the region of 75, this answer is. It's going to be in the region of 75. So 4 3s are 12, 5 3s are 15, plus that 1 is 16, 2 3s are 6, plus that 1 is 7. So I've got the digit 762 there, but I reckon my final answer therefore is 76. 0.2. If you feel really confident with your multiplying, you can get this answer without doing these two steps. You can do the calculation as follows. You can change this percentage into a decimal, 0.3, and you can just multiply, because the word of means multiply, 254. And you can do this calculation straight away and get 30% of 254 just by doing 0.3 multiplied by 254. Example 8. Again, just like I've just said in the previous example, if you are really confident with your multiplying of decimals, you can, of course, do 0.7, because that's 70% as a decimal, and you can multiply it by 5. You can absolutely do it that way if you prefer. This way, 10% of 5, well, if I put 5 in the place value table, 10% means I've got to divide everything by 10, and that means jumping in the place value grid 1 column to the right, and that means I get that my 10% is 0.5. And to get to 70%, well, that number's been multiplied by 7, so I reckon that's going to be multiplied by 7, which is going to give me 3.5. Example 9, work out 80% of 0.09. And again, if you're confident with your decimals, you can do 0.8 multiplied by 0.09. Or you can work it out in stages like this. 10% of 0.09, well, if I put my digits in the place value grid, this is the original number, 0.09, and then all digits have to be jumped 1 column to the right, so the 9 is going to go into here, so that means 10% is 0.009, so 0.009. And to get to 80%, I've got to multiply it by 8. So this has got to be multiplied by 8 as well. And you can do a little quick multiplication in your head. 9 8 is 72. But make sure you put that 72 in the right place value. So if that's in that column, then you're going to get your 72 going like this. So 0.072 is 80% of 0.09. And example 10, work out 50% of 782. So again, you can do it this way if you wish. 0.5 multiplied by 782. You can do it this way if you wish. 10%, 782. Well, we know now what we do in the place value table, so this is 78.2. And then you could times it by 5, but hopefully you have seen that instead of doing it like this, you can think about it as just halving it, okay? Because finding 50% is the same as halving a number, so you can just do half of this number, 782 divided by 2. So your final answer there is 391. So, as a recap, a really good starting point is 10%, because then you can get any other percentage. Once you've got 10%, you can get 20% by doubling it, you can get 30% by tripling it, you can get 70% by multiplying that by 10% by 7. If you are lucky enough to have a question which just asks you for 50% of the amount, then you can just halve it. So, here are some questions for you to have a go at yourself. So pause the video now, have a go at these questions, all without a calculator. So these are all non-calculator questions. So have a go at these, pause the video, have a go at these, and then restart the video to see the answers. And here are the answers. Very well done for having a go at those.